After some digging, you finally find them. Glass jars containing thousands of names. The names of children. Children who were destined to be killed, burned and forgotten. Who buried these names? And why did she risk everything to remember them? Sit back, relax, and let me tell you the incredible and tragic story of Irena Sendler. Irena Sendler was born in 1910 in Warsaw, Poland. Her father, a doctor, believed that everyone deserved care, regardless of background, wealth or religion. During a typhus epidemic in 1917, her father treated many poor Jewish patients and would actually end up dying of the disease himself when Irena was just 7 years old. His death would leave the family struggling, but his values would stick with his daughter. In the 1930s, Irena began studying literature at Warsaw University. Here she clashed with anti-Semitic rules, including seating segregation. She deliberately sat on the Jewish bench in protest and ended up suspended because of it. And this act of defiance would actually foreshadow her entire life to come.
Poland, September 1939.
When Nazi Germany started World War II by invading Poland in 1939, Warsaw quickly turned into a city of fear. During the German occupation of the city, Jewish families were forced into ghettos, wearing armbands and stripped of all rights. By 1940, over 400,000 Jews had been forced into the Warsaw Ghetto, an area just 1.3 square miles in size, which is around 3.5 square kilometers. About the same size as Central Park in New York. Conditions were absolutely horrific. Disease, starvation, overcrowding and death was all around. The Jews in the ghetto were allowed a daily food ration of just around 200 calories, which is about the same as this slice of bread with some butter on top. Families inside the ghetto were desperate, especially to save the most vulnerable among them, their children. But anyone caught trying to help the Jews faced execution. Irena, who at the time of the occupation was working as a senior administrator in the Warsaw Social Welfare Department, decided to try to help the best way she could. She managed to gain access to the ghetto under the pretense of checking for outbreaks of typhus. She joined Segota, the underground council to aid Jews. With their help, she built a network of couriers, priests, nuns and families who wanted to get their children out of the ghetto. One of her closest companions, Jan Dobraszynski, a senior official in Warsaw's Municipal Welfare Department, helped arrange for many of the children to be placed in Catholic orphanages. They made this possible by forging certificates that proved several children had been baptized in the Catholic faith. During these missions, Irena operated under the codename of Jolanta, a cover name that would eventually become so well known among Jewish families inside the ghetto that even years after the end of the war, children who survived were certain that Jolanta was her real name. The rescue missions that she, Jan and others went through with were extremely dangerous. They were also coordinated and well planned, but how did they actually manage to get the children out of the well-guarded and locked-down ghetto? Allow me to explain. You see, smuggling children from the ghetto was not a one-size-fits-all plan. It demanded courage, creativity and a lot of disguises. Irena and her network used every trick they could imagine. Some children were carried out in ambulances, under the pretense that they were infected with typhus. Others were given sedatives and hidden inside different boxes, backpacks and even coffins. Some slipped out through sewer tunnels and secret passages beneath buildings at the ghetto's edge. And the smallest children and the babies, they were even smuggled out in baskets. They did everything in their power to help the children escape the fate that awaited them. Each operation required forged papers, a hiding place and an adoptive family or orphanage, willing to risk everything by accepting the children smuggled out. Irena kept meticulous records of each child's real name and new identity. She wrote their names on thin strips of paper, placed the strips in glass jars, and buried them under an apple tree in a friend's garden, hoping to one day reunite the children with their real parents and family. But sadly, most of the children were never to be reunited with their loved ones. Most of the Jewish families living inside the Warsaw Ghetto were deported to concentration camps like Treblinka and did not survive the war. So even though Irena kept meticulous records of the children's names and their families, more often than not there were no living relatives to reclaim the children. Then, one night, everything was about to unravel for Irena and her secret rescue missions. A baby, sedated and hidden in a carpenter's toolbox, began to wake up. It made some small movements and a sound or two escaped from the box at a German checkpoint. A Gestapo officer soon caught attention and turned his flashlight over the box. Irena acted quickly and coughed loudly while pointing to a typhus sign drawn on the wall nearby. It worked, and he let them pass. Eventually though, Irena's luck would run out, and in 1943 she was arrested by the Gestapo. She was beaten, tortured, and they even broke both her legs during the interrogation. They demanded she give up names, locations, and contacts. What the German officers didn't know was that Irena had a list of several children's names hidden in her shoe, a list she miraculously managed to keep concealed. The Gestapo quickly realized that Irena was unshakably defiant. She hadn't changed much from the girl who sat on the Jewish bench in protest. But this time her resistance came at a brutal cost, and the beatings intensified. However, Irena stayed strong. She gave them nothing. Out of options, the Germans had no other choice than to sentence her to death. By sheer luck, or maybe good karma, some members of the Polish resistance managed to bribe a German guard, and she was able to escape from prison just hours before her scheduled execution. And the Nazis, not wanting to lose face, actually announced that she had been executed. Irena had to go into hiding, but she never gave up. For the rest of the war, she did her best to continue working on saving the children of Warsaw. After the war, Irena returned to her friend's garden. She dug up the jars buried under the apple tree, careful not to damage the fragile scraps of paper inside. She then tried her best to reconnect the children with the few surviving family members that were left after the Holocaust. For some, answers would come later. One girl, Eva, first discovered in her 20s that her entire family had been killed in Treblinka. Her only connection to her family was a strip of paper buried in a glass jar under that tree. And actually, the tree is still there. So if you ever find yourself in Warsaw, head to number 9 Lekarska Street and stand before a living witness to Irena's resistance, courage, and memory. Irena continued her life as best she could in Poland's communist regime, in a time where stories like hers were rarely celebrated. Her heroism went unrecognized for decades, as she started to work as a teacher and social worker and eventually raising children of her own. She rarely spoke about what happened during the war. Then in 2000, a group of high school students from Kansas discovered her story and turned it into a play called Life in a Jar. That project helped bring her story to the world. In 2007, Irena was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, and although she didn't win, her nomination helped bring long overdue recognition to her name. Irena passed away in 2008 at the age of 98. She has later been credited with saving about 2,500 Jewish children from the Warsaw Ghetto during the war. But what makes Irena's story truly extraordinary is not just the number of children she saved during the war, it's the choice she made again and again to act, to lie, to smuggle, to resist. And when asked why she did it, Irena once said, "I was brought up to believe that a person must be rescued when drowning, regardless of religion and nationality." I hope you enjoyed this episode of Footnotes in History, even though this one was quite hard to revisit. I hope we all are able to act like Irena did in the face of injustice. And until our next journey through time, remember, history is closer than you think.